Welcome back, lady or gentleman. We are about to do a full sound design breakdown of this GT3 Cinematic. Let's dive in. All right, let's start with this downer at the very beginning. I like my videos to make an entrance. You need to grab the attention of the audience fast in this day and age. So to do this, I started with this downer here as well as this drone underneath, but let's single out the downer first. And then here's the drone. And those just play by themselves up until we see the laser go over the car. And for that, we're going to be using a mix of my sound effects from my automotive sound effects bundle, as well as Ocular sound effects from their Quantum bundle. So we'll start with this energy movement right here. We'll solo this out. So sick. They do such a freaking good job. And then we layer that with one of my whooshes down here, just to add an airy layer to that. And then we go down to this liquid energy whoosh down here for my bundle, which is kind of a blend of, it's kind of a mix of both. It's a little bit airy, a little bit textured, but combined, we got the texture of this ocular sound right here, got the airy whoosh right there, and then a little bit of both right here. Way fun. It sounds so freaking cool. Then we've got this, this next scene with the intake. I've got an ocular sound going over the next two scenes just because this sound works well as like a two-stage sound. So we'll play the first half of this sound right here. Super subtle, honestly. And then we've got this whoosh down here for the airy aspect that I wanted to add. And then another whoosh down here with a higher tone of airy whoosh. If you know why each sound is being placed, then you know when you've placed enough sounds because you have a list of tones and sounds in your head that you know you want the scene to have. For example, for these, I wanted a very textured sound, I wanted a whoosh sound, and I wanted to make sure that I was hitting both the higher treble notes and the deeper bass notes. So once I hit those three criteria, I knew I was done. I could move on with my scene. So we then jump over to this steering wheel shot and we can go to the second half of this ocular sound. Again, super simple, but like the perfect digital texture that I'm looking for. And then we've got this long whoosh down here, giving me some of those airy whoosh vibes. And then we've got this growling heavy whoosh, which is a very unique sound for my bundle. I don't use it very often because it's a very thick sound. Like it's one that can easily overpower other sounds, but I ended up speeding it up and turning it down and it fit perfectly. Yeah, way fun. And then after that, we've got this energy movement down here from Ocular. A much higher pitched texture sound. So combined, it all sounds like this. And then we move on to these two tiny sounds. I think these two little sounds over here are from Artlist. They're super, super simple. I just wanted like a quick wrap up sound for the end of the laser sequence, and then just a glitch sound over here. And then there's one final laser effect mixed with a light leak right here. And for this, I just use one single sound. I just use this ocular sound down here and it was perfect. It was all I needed. So freaking cool. They kill it over there. And then what's important to realize too is during all of this, I have a riser coming in that we should also listen to. So that builds the anticipation. And then we have the payoff later over here in the video. And I'll explain why the payoff and the anticipation is separated in this circumstance. So let's play this all back all together. So anticipation is built. We then move into this quick cut sequence right here. So we've got the clutch kick, the shift, and the throttle kick. Now what I did with these scenes is I wanted to make sure that you could tell which sounds belong to which scene. I didn't want the sounds to be just meshed across all three of them. I wanted you to easily identify what you were seeing with what you were hearing. And just for clarification so that you're not wondering, everything from here on out is from my sound effects bundle. So we've got first this cyberpunk hit down here. And then we have this sub hit down here. I wanted to offset them to kind of give the impression that he hits the top of the pedal and then pushes the pedal down and hits the floor, so to speak, hits the end of the pedal. So we got that right there. And then we've got the shifting action right here with another cyberpunk hit. And then I wanted to layer that with a more mechanical sound. And this steampunk device hit was exactly what I needed. So we put those together. And then we've got this throttle kick right here. We'll start with this cyberpunk hit. And then this whoosh to sub hit. Hitting more of that low pass, deeper tone. So we put those together. And then when we play it all back, you'll be able to tell, because I kept them so short and choppy, you can tell exactly what sound goes to which scene. And then we hit the actual payoff. So like I said, we have the anticipation building throughout the intro, and then there's this gap, so to speak, and then the payoff separate from that riser. And I like to do this sometimes because it provides just like one last second of like breath holding, so to speak, for the audience. And I think it's just a really fun way to like just take that potential energy roller coaster just like a little bit higher before finally dropping down. So one thing that you'll immediately notice is that we've got this cyberpunk hit down here as like the reveal sound, but it's one frame too soon. And the reason for that is because our ears can't register what they hear to our brains as fast as our eyes can register what they see to our brains. So what that means is that you have to place your sounds a slight bit ahead of your visuals if you want them to seem as if they are happening at the same time. That makes sense? So in this case, it may be one frame ahead, but when you play it back, it sounds like it's exactly on time. Because it just takes that extra like microsecond for our brain to register what it heard versus brain to register what it sees. So if you ever feel like you're lining it up perfectly and it doesn't sound right, that's probably why. I typically like, if it's a really, really sharp sound, I typically like to just put it one frame prior. That way it feels like it matches. So we've got this, I'm gonna mute the exhaust notes so we can focus on these sound effects. We've got this cyberpunk hit right here. And then I wanted a really deep bass hit as well, just to kind of add a sense of power to the hero car that's just been introduced. And then what's fun is throughout this scene, I kind of let it breathe a little bit. I allow you to hear the engine, allow you to hear the shifting and stuff. But then I added these whooshes right here. And a lot of times I get asked, like, where can I add more sound effects? People will send me their videos. They'll be like, hey, I don't know where else sound effects can go and it still feels empty. And a typical rule of thumb that I like to play by is if something is moving in the frame, feel free to give it a sound. Even if it doesn't make a sound, just make one up that feels fitting for it. In this case, it's the paint on the road, it's the stripes. So we've got that line exiting the frame. I gave that a sound. And then we've got the dotted lines then entering the frame too. This is fun because I use the same whoosh over and over, but I went up in pitch each time. So this is, let's see, -12, -8, -4, 0. And what that did was it kind of like subconsciously, like it's not super clear to the, like it's not obvious, but it created its own little riser to build anticipation for the next scene. And if we play them back, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Then it gets to the shifting. So that was just a fun little thing that I added here that I enjoyed. We also have an actual riser playing underneath that. So if we play this all back together, it sounds like this. Then we get to the shifting. So with that riser, I put a bass drop payoff right here. And then for the sound of the shifting itself, we've got this cyberpunk blast right here. And then we have this hydraulic hit down here. More of a mechanical sound. Then we've got the steampunk heavy reload. higher pitched mechanical sound, higher tone. And then we've got this sub reload down here, which is technically a hit, but I played it in reverse to make it into a riser. Fun little trick you can do. So if we play that all back together, and then that tiny riser leads to this GoPro shot right here. So with this GoPro shot, it's pretty simple, honestly. We've got this hit down here that kind of acts as a transitionary sound between these two scenes. And then we've got a more solid hit as like a scene separator with this energy shield hit. And then another downer as well. And I really like to add this chopper drone sound when I have like shots next to the wheel. It kind of feels more visceral, like you're right up in the action. So we'll play that. And then we have this close-up riser. So all that together sounds like this. And then that takes us to the steering wheel shot, which honestly I had to get creative for because not a lot is happening in this scene, but I still wanted it to have its own sound. So we have this really light little mechanical sound. Tiny. And then I just tossed in this gear winding sound because I wanted some kind of like background texture noise. I thought it was fun. Super subtle. And then we've got this little riser right here. It's more of a piece of a riser, actually. And then a whoosh sound to transition across to the steering wheel scene. So we play those together. Sounds like this. And then we get to some driving shots. So first we have an introductory blast right here. And then after that, it's just two whoosh sounds for this sign passing in the background. So let's solo out this top one. Low pitch whoosh mixed with high pitch whoosh, thus creating depth. All of that is being placed over this really long whoosh down here, which spreads across both these scenes. And if we play these all together, it sounds like this. And then for this next scene, when the car changes lanes, we've got this sign that passes right here, and then there's a car that passes right here. So I decided to give those both sounds too. We'll start with the sign. We've got this quick distorted whoosh right here, mixed with these down here. Oh, this is a downer for the new scene as well. But we got this other whoosh down here. And then that is followed by these two for the car coming past. There's one. There's two. Again, two different tones to those. So we play this all back. And then we get to the tachometer climbing to the amazing 9,000 RPM. What a freaking car, man. Driving a manual 9,000 RPM car is just a crazy experience. So for this, I just decided to let the sound kind of breathe on its own. I wanted the car to be the sound of the car to be the hero here. However, I did add effects to the sound of the car. And what I mean by that is this has some EQ adjustment going on just to bend it to the sound that I want. But then over on this side, this is the exact same sound across here. I cut it in half, and then on this side, I turned off that equalizer, so it flattened out, and I added the modulation effect, which can just be found in like the Fairlight effects section. So drop that onto the footage. It just comes standard with DaVinci. And then what I do is I drop this down, add tremolo, and then you can adjust the rate of the tremolo right here with like how fast it goes from like whoa, whoa, whoa to whoa, 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 whoa. And then you can adjust these other dials, and they all do different things. And it's fun to play with them and just kind of see how it affects your sound that you have. So I added this to it, and you can hear it here if we play this back on its own. You hear how it starts to vibrate like that. And then I did the exact same thing actually to this riser down here. Way fun, way fun. And then I've got this the second riser right here underneath that one. So all together, I guess the two risers by themselves sounds like this. and then with the sound of the car. And then that leads to grabbing the gear shifter there. So for this is really simple. We've got this whoosh right here. And then, which kind of acts a little bit as a riser too on its own. Anyways, and then we've got this blaster reload down here, mixed with this deep distorted hit. Again, higher tone, lower tone, creates depth. It's really simple, like 2 sounds, and it already sounds that much more professional by just having 2 sounds playing 2 different parts like that. And then we jump into this canyon shot, which then goes into an overhead drone shot of that same canyon. So we've got this space laser blast to introduce this shot. And then we've got this soft bass hit underneath that. Pretty subtle, very simple. Again, the car's doing most of the work here. We can play that. I added some reverb to that since it is in a little canyon. And then that just leads off to this drone shot where I have this one Energy Chaos sound for this light leak that I added right here. So we can play that on its own. And then for the drone shot reveal, I just wanted 2 really deep hits. So we've got this first one, and then this second one. And then those lead to these 2 risers over here. And then we hit this chaotic montage right before the very last scene. We've got light leaks and glitches, and I kind of just went ham over here. Like, this was honestly a lot of fun, just go crazy with and see what happens, so to speak. So let's start with the cyberpunk blast up here on the top. And then that goes into this whoosh to crunchy sub impact. And then underneath that, for the second half of this glitch sequence, we've got this liquid fire. And then we have this sub blast, or we have this blaster hit across the whole thing down here. And then a sub blaster hit beneath that for most of it. And then all of that has this latch release down here, which is that like mechanical metallic sound that I wanted to add. Almost camera-like. So all of that is for that glitch light leak sequence. And then we get to the final scene, which is this flyby with a single glitch in the middle. So for that, I decided to add this spaceship whoosh down here, which actually drags across the whole thing as it slowly builds. You can barely hear it, but if we play it back, you'll see. Really deep, strong whoosh. And then for this flyby scene right here, I wanted to add almost like a sonic boom effect. So I added this blast. And then we got this spinning whoosh, which just carries all the way out to the end. And then with all of that put together, sounds like this. So yeah, and that's the GT3 video. If you guys have any questions on things that you'd like me to dive deeper into, things I didn't cover, please let me know. I really think this is a ton of fun breaking these down. It's my goal to just be as helpful as possible for you guys. And as always, you can find the purchase link to my sound effects in the description below. I'm also going to leave a link to the Ocular sound pack that I used for this too, because their work is just amazing. And finally, I love seeing the stuff that you guys create with my sound effects packs. It's very inspiring to me. You guys do incredible things with it, and you use my sounds in a way that I would never think of. So always feel free to send me the stuff that you make. You can DM it to me, email it to me, whatever you want. I love seeing it. So thank you guys for watching, and go have fun.